Welcome to week 6. All right, we're going to start with completing the square. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit confusing. I'm going to talk you through it and we're going to do a couple together. So before we do that, let's refresh on how to factor. So we're going to factor these. So to factor, remember, we're going to set this side equal to 0. So we need to move this 4 over, and we're going to subtract it here. Okay, so now we have x squared plus 14x plus 45 equals 0. Now remember, I'm trying to determine what two numbers multiply to give me 45 and add up to 14. So I can do that by writing all my factors of 45. I have 1 times 45 and 5 times 9. Or -1 times -45 and -5 times -9. So when I go back in and I add them, this equals 46. This equals 14. So here's our answer, 5 and 9. So I'm going to factor, and I'm going to get x plus 5, x plus 9, I just factored it, equals 0. Now, when we have it equal to 0, we're going to break it down into two different equations, just like we did on the quiz. So we're going to set each one, so we're going to set this one here and this one here, we're going to set them both equal to 0. So we have x plus 5 equals 0 and x plus 9 equals 0. So I just took each one. And now I'm just solving for x. I subtract 5 from both sides, and x equals -5. Subtract 9 from both sides, and x equals -9. So here are my two answers. X equals -5 and x equals -9. Okay? Okay, for this one, I'm going to change this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cross out this -6x. So I'm going to rewrite this to be x squared plus 9 equals 20. Okay, we're going to do what we did on it. We're going to we're going to solve by square roots. So in order to do that, I need to get my x squared by itself. So I'm going to subtract 9, and I get x squared equals 11. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get x equals square root or radical 11. And to finish it off, I add the plus or minus. A lot of you guys forgot to put that plus and minus in front of your answer, but it has to be a plus or minus there. So x equals radical, plus or minus radical 11. That's my answer. Okay. So that's just kind of a reminder of what we did last week. Okay, so now we're going to solve by completing the square. We just solved by square roots. Now we're going to solve by completing the square. And this is a couple steps, so take your time and we'll go through it together. So the first step says to rewrite as a x squared plus bx equals c. Okay, so remember that we want the number that doesn't have an x with it, we want it on the other side. Okay, so with this one, we're going to just go ahead and start here. We want it to say ax squared plus bx equals c. So we need to move this over here. Okay, we're going to do that by subtracting. We're just going to subtract it from both sides. Okay, so we have x squared. We can pretend there's a 1 there, so that's our a. Ax squared minus 18x, that's our b, equals negative 56. All right, done. We did that. Now it says to divide both sides by a, so x squared is by itself. Well, right now, x squared is already by itself. I'll show you one here after we get through this that isn't where we'd have to divide, but right now this one's set up the way we want to do it. Here's the tricky part. Here's what is going to take a little bit of time. Completing the square. So what we need to do is we need to take half of b, and b is the number in front of x. This is always b, okay? The number in front of x. Okay, we're going to take half of it. So 1/2 of 18 equals 9. Everyone would agree that 1/2 of 18 equals 9. So we took half of b. Now we're going to square it. We're going to square 9. We're going to square that number, and we get 81. Okay, 9 squared is 81. All right, so now what we need to do is we're going to add this number, 81, back into our equation, and we're going to add it to both sides. So I'm going to rewrite what we have. We have x squared minus 18x equals negative 56. Okay, and I'm going to add it right after my 18x. So every time I'm going to say x squared minus 18x blank equals negative 56 blank. Okay, and that's where I'm going to add this 81. Plus 81 and plus 81. Let's make that a different color. Plus 81, plus 81. Okay, that's where that came from. Okay, so now my new equation is x squared minus 18x plus 81 equals negative 56 plus 81 is 25. Okay. So now we're going to factor. We're going to factor this, okay? This is where we take our two parentheses. We're going to factor this side. This side's going to stay the same at 25, okay? So what two numbers multiply to give me 81 and add up to 18, or negative 18? Well, negative 9 plus negative 9 is negative 18, and negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. So it's always going to be whatever that half was. So, it's always going to be this number. But in this case, it's going to be negative because we want it to be negative. So we're going to go x minus 9, x minus 9. Okay, so we just took that 9 and we put it here and here. So we factored that. But to make it easier, I'm telling you that it's always going to be whatever that number is that we squared. Okay, now we're going to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to take the square root of this side and the square root of this side. And this side is just like what we were doing before, where we could say x minus 9 squared equals 25. And we could, and then we're taking the square root of both sides, which just leaves us with x minus 9 equals, the square root of 25 is 5. But we have to put our plus and minus there. So now we have x minus 9 equals plus or minus 5. And then we just need to separate this into two. X minus 9 equals positive 5. X minus 9 equals negative 5. Okay? Add 9, and we get x equals 14. Add 9, x equals 4. There are our two answers. Okay, so when we're completing the square, all we're doing is taking half of b, or half of the number before x, and squaring it to get our final, to get the last term so we can factor. Let's do another one. Again, we want all of our numbers. This is set up correctly. We have ax squared minus bx equals c. That's exactly what we want. Except this is where it comes back to that divide. So right here where it says divide, so we can get x squared by itself, we're going to go ahead and divide everything by 2 to get rid of this, 2 right here. So we're going to divide everything by 2, and we get x squared minus 8x equals negative 15. So all I did was divide everything by 2, and I got x, because that canceled out, so I get x squared minus 16 divided by 2 is negative 8x equals negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15. All right, so I did that step. So now I'm going to complete the square, and by doing that, I take half of b, which is 8. So I'm going to write that over here. 1/2 of 8 equals 4, or 8 divided by 2 is 4. And now I'm just going to square that, and that equals 16. Now I have to add 16 to both sides of my equation. So I have x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals negative 15 plus 16. So I added that 16 to both sides, and there it is. So now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to factor this side, and I get x, and remember I told you it's always that number that was half of the middle. So I have x minus 4, x minus 4. And again, we get minus 4 and minus 4 because negative 4 times negative 4 equals 16, and negative 4 plus negative 4 equals negative 8. Okay? Equals negative 15 plus 16 is 1. Okay, now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And over here, I just get one of my parentheses, x minus 4 equals, the square root of 1 is 1 plus or minus 1. So now I need to break that down, and I have x minus 4 equals 1. X minus 4 equals negative 1. And I get, add 4, x equals 5, add 4, x equals 3. Okay? Go ahead and try 5, 6, 7, 8 on your own. Again, I'll have office hours this week, so you can pop in and we can work together or watch the video again. Remember, you can always watch someone else's video if you need to. All right, let me know if you have questions.